A little bit about my childhood. Um, on my mom's side, I have I'm the oldest of three girls. On my dad's side, I'm the second oldest of four children on my dad's side. And a little bit about as far as my childhood, pretty much didn't live with my mom. Um, moved back and forth with family members, mostly my aunt, and then growing up, I mostly lived with my dad and his wife, which was my stepmom, and their other children. Well, right after high school, I graduated from Hogan. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I just and I think it has something to do with as far as my confidence. My stepmom, she really played a part in that as far as my confidence and not really believing in me and where I wanted. I didn't know. I knew I loved to draw, but I didn't know what to do with it pretty much, and my confidence was pretty much shot. So I just knew that I just had to get a job because college wasn't like an option. And so, yeah, fast forwarding, my dad and my stepmom pretty much got a divorce. And then he was in and out of my life. And then, so that's when I seeked a lot of attention trying to find it. And I met my then boyfriend. We pretty much he was into partying and stuff like that, and that's what I wanted to do too. And so end up getting pregnant and really wanted to keep my baby and there were some in my corner as far as keeping it, but my stepmom came back in my life because she was in and out and thought I should get an abortion. And but I knew I didn't want to do that because honestly, I didn't even know what abortion was. And she told me, and so we went to the abortion clinic and spoke with a like counselor. And I remember speaking to her and telling her I don't really want to do this, but my stepmom is telling me that I should do this, and she was like, "Well, Kiesha, that's up to you, but do know that once we do the procedure, that's it. Like, cause it's a 2 day procedure. Cause I was about 3 months, about to be on four, and so I was like, okay." She was like, because it's like surgery, that once they start the procedure, I can't eat after a certain hour, and if so, I can pretty much choke and as far as the surgery procedure. And so I came up with the idea to lie to my stepmom because when I got in the car that day, she thought that I already started. She's like, "Did you do it or whatever?" I was like, "Well, they said that I couldn't eat at a certain time." So I actually lied to her because I wanted anyone to stop me and say, "No, don't do it." But she was like, "Oh my goodness, Kiesha, you shouldn't have made that mistake. Okay, this time don't eat at a certain hour." So clearly, her mom was made up. She wanted me to do this. And so, that night, um, I like went to bed, had a bad dream, woke up, and like it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I purposely went in the bathroom by her room to cry loud so she can hear me to wake up, and she did. But clearly, her mind was set like you should still do it because I didn't want to do it. So, um, fasting forward, I went to the clinic, they called my name and some other women's name, and I just, put on the robe and the gown, and I remember taking a pill and just noticing the other women in the room that were just so calm, and I just felt out of place because I'm like, why isn't anyone like crying? Like, why isn't anybody like feeling bad for what they're about to do? And it was just me, the only one. And I remember taking this pill to make the contractions start so I can go or whatever a little faster. And mine happened to be like some kind of, I don't know, it's like a effect that went really bad because all of a sudden I started having really bad cramps. And I went to the bathroom and it was pretty much, there was like, yeah, you have to go, because we had to go in order. And I remember I told myself I'm gonna stay awake for this procedure because I want to see what happens. And I just remember that I was so drugged up that um, the doctor just like was like, "Kiesha, are you still there?" kind of thing. And before I know it, the procedure was over. And afterwards, I just felt like, what have I just done? And they try to like calm you down with snacks and stuff, but I was so angry. I didn't want anything, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was just waiting for my ride, and like I remember getting in the car just crying and just being really upset, and happened to put on a front for everyone to make them think that I wasn't angry, but I was. Wanted to go out and try my best to like um numb myself from the thought, but that wouldn't work. Like I still was upset. I would try to go out to the mall with my friends and stuff, but I still would think about it. People will make jokes like about abortions and then like, "Oh, Kiesha, you'll be fine." I'm like, right, I'll be fine, but in the back of my mind I want to kill myself. And then after that, just wanted to avoid baby showers, hating Mother's Day at church. And it's like all of a sudden people started having babies and it got on my nerves. Wanted me to hold their children, but I didn't want to. I would lie and say my arm hurt or something stupid like that. And like, fast forwarding, I joined this church called Grace Baptist Church. And I started going on a regular, and then all of a sudden I joined, became a member. And I remember one Sunday, the pastor started talking about abortions, and I'm like, oh goodness. Like, because at this time, it was like I was 19 when I had my abortion. At this time, I think I was like 24. And I'm like, okay, why you have to talk about this topic? And I think what it was is like back then, I forgave the situation, but I didn't forgive myself. And so I felt like God placed it on my pastor's heart and mind to speak about it. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I just remember in that day after service, my pastor was talking about it and was saying, God is a forgiving God. And then that's when I was introduced to Rachel House. One of the girls at my church is a volunteer there. And she told me about Rachel House and how they help with women as far as abortions and stuff like that. And so she's like, I think you should come, and just hear what they have to say. And I remember going to Rachel House, to orientation just to see what it's about. And just something about the display of how the baby is like real little and how it starts to grow. That did something to me, and I had to walk out the room and I was crying, and I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not over it. I thought I was. I tried to suppress it and really just forget about it, but I wasn't. And then Elaine told me about If Not for Grace Ministries, and I tried my best to like avoid the situation again, like not calling. So one day I called and it kept going to voicemail, and I'm like, okay, forget it, I give up. And someone told me like to still call them or whatever, and I ended up speaking to one of the volunteers at If Not for Grace Ministries, and then still fasting forward. um, I went to before they pretty much were preparing me to go if um, her Choice to Heal meeting and reading the book and lesson. And like before I went to that, like a month before, I happened to see the guy that got me pregnant. And it was scary because I haven't seen him since I was 19 years old. So it was like, okay, like this has to be a sign. Even though we were in the store and he didn't say anything to me, I didn't say anything to him because I think even he was a little shocked to see me too. And it kind of hurt because, I saw kids there with him calling him daddy. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is a sign and I'm going to do this. And that's when I started going to her Choice to Heal classes. And after that, meeting other women that was going through the same thing I was going through and talking to them, and her Choice to Heal book really did help me. Of course, it brought out the truth in those emotions that I tried to suppress and try to put behind me. It made me only realize that it was hurting me and who God really see me as. And after that, went to reconciliation weekend. To be vulnerable in front of others, it wasn't good at first, but then, just knowing that other people that really cares for you and been through the same thing that can relate really made a difference. And ever since then, as far as the church that I'm in, I found out that my spiritual gift is exhortation. And I started noticing that people started coming to me for advice. And so I'm like, okay, I want to go to college and go to school, but I don't know what to do. And so I was like, why don't I use something that I already have? And my aunt told me, she was like, well, have you ever thought about being a counselor? And I was like, it was like a light bulb went off. I never thought about that. And so now I go to Carver Baptist College for my bachelor's to be a Christian counselor, which is also at my church. I feel like I was placed there for a reason because not only do I have the church family for support, but also financially. Like I said, I see women come to me for advice, and I do see what God is doing in my life, especially with the women, if not for grace. And to listen, not just get the advice if I should do this, but to listen. Because no matter what, the choice is hers. But not to do it because the guilt and the shame and the regret is really real. It's one thing when you lose something, but that right there is beyond, like, the feeling is like torture. And of course, I believe through God, you can get through anything, but just to experience that, it can all be avoided. And, God, I even seen it in my dream before, where God revealed to me that I have a daughter waiting for me in heaven. Her name is Stephanie, and she's so beautiful. So, but to answer your question, yeah, it's so easy to say don't do it, but the regret and just feeling like that can all be avoided.